So we were joined from New Orleans by my friend Michelle Bidwell. We were trying to get her last year, and we had some technical difficulties, and we've got her today. Founder of Granite Advisors there in New Orleans. We thank you so much for taking some time for us out of your busy schedule. This is our entrepreneurship class here at Velma Jackson High School. I've got a room full here with me, and we're recording this for all of our friends in Madison County schools: Madison Central High School, Ridgeland High School, Germantown High School, the Academic Options Center, and our YouTube channel. So thank you once again so much for fitting us in your extremely busy schedule.
Awesome. Happy to be here and happy to talk about what I do and educate the youth. I love it.
Now, obviously, we want to talk about what all you do as far as Granite Advisors because funding is such a big deal, especially for minority-owned businesses. But just take us back to the beginning because you have a background in public health and you went to Xavier University, Louisiana, there in New Orleans. Great HBCU, and I have no problem in saying I think it's one of the most underrated HBCUs in the country, just with the academic excellence and leaders in our community that the school turns out. So just take us back to your HBCU experience, and then going on and getting several degrees and having a master's in public health.
Yes, yes. So I guess to take you all the way back to my Xavier University days, when I was at Xavier, I decided to do the pre-medicine track. So for all of you who may be interested in that, that's the track you choose if you want to go and become a doctor, a medical doctor. And so back in that time, there was like a dual degree program where if you wanted to go the medical track, you can either do chemistry pre-med, biology pre-med, or psychology pre-med. And psychology really stuck out to me. I took a few psychology courses when I was in high school, and I was talking to a couple of folks that went to Xavier who also went to my high school, and it just sounded like psychology was the right fit for me. I really like to think through like why people do what they do, how people think, and the different ways that chemistry interacts with the role that chemistry, internal brain chemistry, plays in the decisions that people make. And so that's the track I went through at Xavier. And so when we think about Xavier, a lot of the schools that you go to, they focus a lot on academics, and Xavier does that too. The curriculum there for pre-medicine is very rigorous. I must say that, but they surround you with all of the support that you need to be successful in school. And they have a whole pre-medical program outside of your class infrastructure that you literally go to every week, and they from day one they prepare you about what medical school looks like, what's going to be expected of you, all of the tests that you're going to have to take to get into medical school, and the tests you'll have to take once you get into medical school as well. And so I just started to learn so much about what medicine meant to the community, and through that program, it did a lot for me, right? Number one, it made me realize that I really didn't want to be a medical doctor, right? I learned so much while I was in the program. And I decided that instead of like, if you think about a doctor, it's a one-to-one patient relationship, right? Your doctor to one patient. I started to learn more about public health through that experience of going to Xavier and having an opportunity to shadow some doctors, which is so important. I recommend that for any students. If you decide to be a doctor, it can't just be because that's all I wanted to do my whole life, which was kind of what I was thinking. I always wanted to be a doctor, like why not, right? And then someone asked me the very astute question, well, have you ever shadowed a doctor? And I
Yeah.
spent some time shadowing doctors in the emergency room, and that made me realize that that probably wasn't the best track for me. And that made me think about public health. So, like I was just telling you, a medical doctor is one doctor to a patient, right? But public health helps you scale your impact because it's a public health practitioner to serve whole communities of people. And so that made the most sense to me. And that was my experience going through Xavier and what pointed me towards the public health track. I wanted to be able to create programs, systems, and funding mechanisms to serve entire populations of people and not just a one-to-one, which is still important and serves a purpose, but I had a different idea in mind for myself.
Now, fun fact about Xavier is they produce more black doctors than any school in America.
In
And
America.
that's something they hang their hat on. And they also have the great pharmacy program there as well. So, we know about our big HBCUs here in Mississippi, and we support all those. But there are so many great options for kids that want to do the college route, especially they want to get into medicine. That's one of the HBCUs that really turns out a ton of medical professionals, and it's right down the road in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned about shadowing a doctor, and I think that also has to do with entrepreneurship. And here's why: because because I don't think anybody in here is really interested in being in a medical field. I may be wrong, but I don't think anybody is. But with the same principle and same idea is if you want to open a business, it's important to work in the business and learn the business before you just open it up. And we're obviously going to talk about granted advisors, but I think this is important because we have another friend of this class who's actually a doctor, and she was winning awards, saving people's lives, doing all these great things in medicine. So she decided to go into business for herself.
Mhm.
And she said, "You know what? I realized I didn't know how to run a business."
Mhm.
So it really is important to learn. And she's doing great. She's just extremely successful. But she had learning curves should not have had to have if she would have done more on the business side. So learning a business, whether it's hair, whether it's mental health, whether it's food, whether it's cutting grass, learning how a business is run can be so vital in making you more successful in your business.
Yes. Yeah, learning how businesses run. I call it putting the right people on the right seats in the bus. Right, making sure that your team, the makeup of your team, is effective for what you want to do. Making sure that everyone has knows your goals and are on pace with that is so important too. In the processes and procedures, so important for running a business. You're right.
Yeah. Now, obviously, you are in a business now that has nothing to do with health. You help a lot of health professionals, but Granite Advisors does so much to help businesses start out because I have kids here that say, "Look, I'd love to start a business, but I don't know how I'm going to pay for it." And that's something you do to help businesses get started because we've all created original business concepts for this class. But it really is a lot of kids have a great idea, but they don't know how to implement it. They don't know how to begin it. They don't know how to fund it. And I think that's where you come in and you work with all types of businesses on getting on their feet financially. So where did this business idea come from? From somebody with a public health background, and just talk a little bit about what you guys do because it is such a needed area, especially for Black-owned businesses.
Yeah, yeah, I'm more than happy to share more information on that. And I'll tell you a little bit of storytelling to show you that what I do today, even though if you think about it practically, it may not be public healthy, but it really is in line with a lot of the public health principles. And I use a lot of the things that I learned in my master's and graduate program in my business on a day-to-day. But I'll tell you a little bit about that. So after I graduated from Xavier, that's where I had kind of my revelatory moment when I realized that public health was the track for me, right? I went to graduate school at LSU, which is Louisiana State University, and I started my graduate school journey in public health. And in that program, we learned everything from like how to write grants. We learned that in that program. People don't realize that. In the program, we learned how to write grants. We learned how to create better systems within the nonprofit sector. We learned about what's called program evaluation. And evaluation is basically the practice of showing an impact. So, like, if you are a nonprofit organ, you serve 100 people over the course of a month, an evaluation program will help show the funder, the community, whoever the end user is, the impact that that program has had on the folks that you are serving. But in any event, while I was in graduate school, one of my advisors asked me to meet up with a nonprofit organization in New Orleans locally. I wasn't really interested in doing that at the time, to be completely honest with you. I was really focused on school, but I took her up on it. I went to go meet with this nonprofit leader, and he painted a beautiful picture of the nonprofit and what they were doing. Um, Fun tidbit: we met offsite. We didn't talk or meet at the nonprofit itself. And I fell in love with him and the mission, and I wasn't anticipating that, and I was like, great, like let's go see it. So we went to go see it, and it was like dirt, right? Nothing was there, but that tells you two things, right? The power of amazing storytelling, right? He was building the nonprofit, but needed a team around him to help grow it, and that team was I was gonna shortly be part of that team. And number two, I was shocked. I was like, oh my God, what do you mean? We're gonna have to build this from scratch? We're gonna have to build this up. And he was like, yep, let's get to work. And honestly, that's the way, going to school is one thing, but being put in the field is another thing. And so I had
Yeah.
the opportunity to put to practice all of those things that I was learning in my public health program.
Wow.
And that I was able to take the theory and apply it and create actual program structure and actual evaluation structure and apply for grants and create a system that helped us apply for grants on a systemic basis. And so that was where I learned everything, right? And we were bringing in a lot of money for the programming, for their programming, and also to build a building. And today, um, that organization is thriving. They've been home to hundreds of people. They have 58 apartment units, and they literally are about to finish the expansion of their wellness center. And now they are in a different state too. They've scaled. And so what I learned there, while I was there, I had other people that would come to me and say, "Hey, y'all are getting a lot of funding over there. Like, what are y'all doing differently?" And I'm like, "Oh, we're doing this, this, and this." I kind of made things streamlined, doing it this way in terms of writing grants, in terms of being able to report on grants. Because when you write a grant application, and I'm sorry, I'm just talking about grants like everyone knows. For those who don't know, a grant is something that you write in order to gain funding money for a organization, for a program, and you don't have to pay it back. A lot of people call it free money. It's not necessarily free money. You have to be able to report on the grant to show that you were responsible, a responsible agent of that funding. But in any event, grants are a revenue generating enterprise for a business or nonprofit. And so that was the lead of my work. That's what I did mostly in that capacity. But in any event, I started to think about entrepreneurship because I saw the need was present in the ecosystem, the nonprofit ecosystem that I was a part of, even though I was working within a nonprofit. And so from there, I started to say to myself, man, I need to create a package, an offering, in order to bring to the public all these folks that have been reaching out to me for support, and that's what I did. So from there, I did have a moment of distraction, which was actually a blessing. I had another group reach out to me that were like, "Hey, I see y'all are making a lot of money over there. Can you come work over here for our for-profit enterprise who was doing a similar work to what I do today?" So I went and worked over there as a vice president for a couple of months, and then I decided, hey, I need to be doing this on my own. And so from there, I decided to start my own business, and I've been doing it ever since. It has been a blessing, and we've been serving a lot of people.
And that's so cool. And I'm glad you explained what grants are because I do think there is a lot of misinformation and a lot of misunderstanding, and that's fine. I've got high school kids here. I wouldn't expect them to be 100% familiar with what grants are, but that is a great point. It is a money you do not have to pay back, but it's also important that you can write and explain why you deserve the grant because
Yes,
there are so many grants around the country for first-time business owners, for first-generation business owners, for HBCU graduates, for Black business owners. It really is something that the information is out there. The money is there. It's just a matter of knowing where to look and knowing how to write for it. And they always get so upset about having to write and having to
yes,
write all these things in English. But I promise you, if you can write, it can open up some great
yes,
opportunities for you, or get or find someone like yourself who specializes in writing grants.
yeah. Writing is a skill that has taken me so far. Yeah, being a good
Uh,
writer.
Now, before I get to their questions, I do want to talk about, you know, uh, especially in New Orleans, there's I know we all saw the Hurricane Katrina documentary, and I know you were a small child at that time. I don't want to give away your age, but just the way the city has rebuilt, and they're real. And I think just what I've read about you, you really saw a need for businesses to build back up after the devastation that occurred there 20 years ago. And even though that is the case, you still have a lot of kind of hesitancy from the Black community to say, look, they aren't familiar with the grants, how they work, because people think they're going to be in debt. They may not be aware, or maybe they just haven't been taught, and that's not their fault. So,
Yeah.
what are some obstacles that you face being a young Black woman as an entrepreneur trying to help other entrepreneurs get on their feet?
Yeah, I think one of the obstacles that I face is in alignment with what you just said. And that's basically that people just have a lack of knowledge about what grants are and how grants can work for them. I feel like or people hear the word grants or evaluation and they think like, oh my God, that is just some big scary thing I want no part of. Like I don't want to do math, like I don't want the IRS coming after me. And like that's just really not what it is, right? And so while my company supports nonprofits and businesses on a retainer model, I also know that there is a large swath of organizations that may not have the money at the moment to hire a team like mine to come in and work for them, but they may have time in a budget allowable for them to learn about grants and learn how to write their own grants. And so that's one of the things I'm really focusing on this year in the next couple of months is like building out educational platforms for people who are working at a nonprofit or started a nonprofit or have a business or trying to get their feet wet to start a business on their own and teaching them about grants, not only teaching them about grants, but how to write them themselves, create a strategy so that it is easy to do and streamline for them. Number one. And number two, I also want to have a thorough line of people who are needing to learn a new skill. And so like this is a viable career path for people that you don't necessarily hear about in college or in the field, but grant writing is a skill set that can make you real money. Like we are on track to do $1 million this year in this field. And people need their grants coming
Wow.
online every day, whether it be from foundations, whether it be from corporations. You look at anything around you on your desk. So Apple has a grant. I'm looking at my Apple computer, right? Apple has a grant program, things like that. Every organization or business around you that is large, 9 times out of 10, they have some type of social responsibility or grant making enterprise where you can be that liaison to help groups or communities in need get access to the funding that they need in order to really serve the community. And so I think that that's like the biggest issue I'm seeing right now, like helping people see like, hey, grants are out here and they really help you and educating them on how to do it themselves if they're not in a position to pay a team like mine to help to do it for them.
Yeah, and you also speak at conferences all over the country about grant writing. So if this is a business, you can learn it. Entrepreneurs are dying to get more information. So, people are paying you a lot of money to speak at these conferences to help entrepreneurs. And I think that's something, especially since COVID, there's more and more entrepreneurs that are in the business of helping entrepreneurs. There's a lot of
Yeah,
partnerships involved. So because we might have somebody say, "Look, I want to start my own business, but I don't know anything about this." Entrepreneurs like yourself, you're not bringing on a full-time employee. You're paying for a service, and you're not going to have a recurring cost. So looking
yeah.
at things like that, I think can help you be successful in business.
Yeah, and I think I heard you say before about like people that are even students in your class that have started a business and they don't have any money to get started. So for me, I didn't need any money to get started, right? Because I knew I had a system that I knew worked. And so what I did was like, hey, I have my intellectual property, right? This package that I created can be a value add and you'll see a return on your investment, which is unique, right? A lot of the sometimes you have a product or a service and it's not as easy to express the return on investment, right? The money that your consumer will make back from purchasing what you have to offer them. But in a grant, when you work in the grant space, it's a little bit easier to see this. Like, hey, if you pay me X amount, I'm able to help you submit grants that equal this amount, which is 10 plus times more than what you are paying me, right? And so helping it's a little bit easier to sell a package when you can talk in those terms of value and then return on investment. So in any event, what I'm saying is like I didn't have any money to start this. I had a package that I knew worked because I tried it, I tested it
Wow.
for other organizations. And so when someone came to me in need of this package, I was able to sell them the package, and then that's how I have the revenue in order to scale it and go from there.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, I do have some questions from the students. I'll get to as many of these as I can. I like this first one. This is Zayden Mann. He's in ninth grade. And he asked, what advice would you have for others looking to make an impact in this field?
What advice do I have for others looking to make an impact in the field? My advice is to work with integrity and care. A thing that we say internally on my team is like, it's our job to care for the caregivers. Like we know how hard our nonprofit or business leaders work to serve the community, and it's our job. We see it as our job to support them because this is my ministry, my mission in life is to help those who are most in need. And so even when I'm writing a grant, I'm thinking of like, what do I need to write? Like if that was my mom who needed help, how would I write this grant? And I go into the work with that type of care and attention. And that's what I would advise anyone to do. When you have that level of care and attention, it shows and it shines through, and that's a product that anybody would want to buy. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's amazing when you do focus on making a difference and doing something you're really passionate about. It's amazing how often that profit comes. And then focusing on the need of the customer. Focus, that's a big mistake I see a lot of teenagers make when they want to go into business for themselves. They only think about what they like. It's not about what you like, it's what your customer likes and what your customer needs. So really being able to listen and communicate with the customer about what you can offer them can make you so successful.
Yeah, and you said it right. The communication is so important. Talking to customers you have or people who you want to be your customers, talking to them about what they call it a pain point. What are the biggest challenges that you are experiencing in this field that I am trying to offer a support to you with? And if you are able to create um, a product, a service that helps people with their pain points, there is there's really no value attached, right? Like when I talk about value, it's priceless, is what I'm trying to say. People, it doesn't, you don't even have to talk about how much it costs. Like if you are saving someone a
Yep.
headache, pain, and suffering with whatever you're offering them, like it will sell itself.
Yeah, the old saying is people will pay for convenience. So if they know they're
Yeah.
getting their money's worth, it is amazing how much they'll be able to do, or how much they'll be willing to pay when they know, like you said, perceived value. And obviously, you're not ripping people off. That's a mind game, but if they know they're getting more, that will give you a chance to charge a little bit more. I like this one. This is Shateria Hannon. She's in 10th grade, member of our band here at Velma Jackson. And she asked, "Can you describe a time that a failure set up your success?"
Oh, a tower of failure set up for success. Oh yeah, okay. Um, I'm trying to think of something that's more recent. Okay. I had a client a couple of months ago. I had a new team member come onto my team at the same time that this new client came on. And I was helping this new team member get oriented to the new environment that they were in, and helping them get oriented to the new client who was also new to us too. They started at the same time. And we had an incident happen where we submitted a grant, and the client didn't have the full review of the grant before we okayed the submission, and the client was very upset. But that gave us an opportunity internally to talk through what went right, what went wrong, and we were able to create an internal system to improve that, and so that will never happen again, right? And to make sure that everyone is on the same page about the process of like what needs to happen before a grant is submitted, make sure that the client is able to review it in full and comfortable and signs off before anything is submitted. Whether and if the client doesn't get to us in time and the deadline passes, oh well, like we won't submit because they have not reviewed it all the way, right? And so that is a new system that we had to put in place because that situation happened. But it, like I said, it gave us an opportunity to right size and improve going forward. And like we're not perfect, right? Things happen all the time. That's just the nature of having a business. It's constant learning, constant improving. Like I have a business coach now that we're working with, right, to continue to improve our company. But in any event, when things like that happen, it is it's a bummer, right? It really sucks when a client is not happy for whatever reason, but take everything that happens like that as an opportunity to improve your system. What broke in your system that was allowed to happen, and fix it. But I guess to make a light at the end of that tunnel, that grant that the client was upset about that we submitted without their final approval. They had one last part that they wanted to approve before we submitted it. And but in any event, we got it, and that was a $20,000 grant that they recently just got on Friday.
Wow.
And they're so happy and excited now, right? But in any event, the client is right. Working with the client, being patient with the client, working with them to figure out a system that works, and being able to scale that system across clients, because 9 times out of 10, if it happened there, it might happen with another client too. So what does it mean across your system, to be able to change that and improve it for the future?
Well, that's a great segue to this question because this is Albriana Towner. She's in 11th grade. And she asked, "What do you like most about the field that you're in now?"
What I like most about the field that I'm in now, is I think it piggybacks off of what you were saying earlier. Like I view myself as a public health practitioner, even though I'm a business owner, right? I'm even though I'm not directly serving people in the community, the clients that I work with, I take it very seriously and I make sure that I'm working with clients that I really care about their mission, right? And most of my clients right now are nonprofit organizations that serve people with disabilities, that serve disabled veterans, that serve children who are homeless, that serve, you name it, that's who they serve, people with HIV, AIDS, things like that. And so I feel like that's the way that I do my mission work, right? I'm still being a practicing public health practitioner through helping my clients think through their programs, making them rock solid, right? And then going ahead and applying for grants that I know that they will be successful with getting. So I think that's what I think, if I remember correctly, that's what she asked what I love the most about my job. I'm still able to be a public health practitioner. I'm still able to do research and really get nerdy and look up the best practices and pull that into their grant applications. And then my whole team just gets so much joy from when they get funded these six-figure grants, and we know that it's going to do real good in the community, and that means that someone has a place to sleep. That
There you
means
go.
that someone who is struggling has a place to go and get the resources that they need. Every dollar that we raise, we know exactly what it's going towards and what it's doing in the community.
Yeah, the tangible results have got to be incredible to know that you had a hand in helping them get the funding to really make a difference in the community. That's so cool. Well, I got time for one more. This is Raheem Cole. He's in ninth grade, and he asked, "What inspired you to become an entrepreneur instead of just remaining an employee?"
Yeah, what inspired me to be an entrepreneur is I wanted freedom. I grew up in a household with two parents who were amazing. They bent over backwards for us, right? But they spent a lot of time working, and because of that, I spent a lot of time with my grandparents, and I love my grandparents so much, right? And I'm very fortunate to be raised by them. But when I got to be an adult and I was working for an organization, when they told me to be there at 9 and leave at 5, that's what I had to do. So that's why I wanted to start my own business so I could have more freedom and be the mom that I wanted to be and travel and do the things that I want to do, how I want to do. So for freedom.
Love it. Well, we're almost out of time, and we thank you so much for taking some time for us. Even though we had the technical difficulties last year, we're glad to have you today. But before we go, tell us where we can find granitadvisors.com.
Yeah, if you want to learn more about us and how we support our clients, you can find us on grantedadvisors.com. You could also find us on LinkedIn at Granted Advisors, as well as Instagram under the same at Granted Advisors. Thank y'all so
Now, the
much.
last thing before we go, like we talked about, there's always, it's not that anybody's stupid or that they don't care, but been a lack of resources, a lack of opportunities in so many communities, especially rural Black communities. But
Yeah.
there's more and more opportunities now through services like yourself. So, as these kids think of maybe I want to go into business for myself, I want to start a nonprofit, I want to make a difference. Why should they really look at businesses like yourself to make that happen and change their communities?
I think that, well, the type of business that the way that I would describe my business is as a social enterprise. So this is a very distinct type of business that you're not a nonprofit, you're a for profit. You make a profit as a business owner, but we make our profit by doing good. And I think a lot of people think that you have to live in poverty to do good. And I want to completely dismantle that. You can do well and do good. There's a place for that, and there's enough for us all. And so, if there's anything that you take away from this, I want everyone to know that you can start a business that really helps your community and make a profit for it, right? Because when people who live with character integrity do well, what do? They disperse their winnings or the money that they make, their profits back into the community through their time and their service and things like that. So that's what I was saying.
Well, love it. Well, again, we thank you so much for joining us. Michelle Bidwell, founder and owner of Granite Advisors, all the way from the Big Easy, New Orleans,
Yeah.
Louisiana. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope to talk to y'all soon. Bye bye.
I'll talk to you soon, my friend.